He's been such a good boy. He's always been a good boy. And look what someone's done to him. They've been awful to him. We need to rescue him. Seriously though, look at this guy. He's got such haunting eyes and a nice big grin on his face. He's happy and terrifying. First up, what are we dealing with? Computer game. Power off before remove or insert cartridge. Output voltage, DC 10 volts. Well, that's supposed to be input voltage. Max current, 850 mega amps. Case sensitivity is important with SI units. Made in Taiwan. Okay, so that's a bit different to usual. That's good. On the back, we've got AV and RF output. The RF dates this thing a lot. This is probably 90s. AC adapter input. On both sides, we've got controller inputs. These look like 15-pin Famicom controller ports. On the top, we've got an eject button, so they must have been kind of taking this seriously. We've got a cartridge slot with one half of the door. I think the other half is what's rattling around inside. I reckon someone's been in this good boy before because the power and reset buttons look like they've been swapped around. Ooh, that's seen some work, that controller. The buttons are all labeled, but it's so worn away. I'll not be surprised if this controller doesn't work, and even the slightly better one is still very worn and one of the screws is missing. If you hadn't guessed already, this is a Famicom clone or Famiclone. The Famicom was the Japanese version of the Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES. But I think this one's a little bit more interesting than your average NES clone, and who can leave a good boy this sad without helping? Like the original Famicom, the controllers slot into the sides, except unlike the original Famicom, both the controllers are the same, so you get one cable hanging out the front. As usual with the lowest quality of game systems, it doesn't tell me which way around the DC polarity has to be, which connection in here is positive or negative. But with a multimeter, it's very easy to find out. When my probes touch together, I get a beeping noise. The outside of AV connectors are always connected to negative, so I just have to probe in the power connector and see which one connects through. In this one, it's the middle. So this is an official Nintendo Famicom power supply, and it matches this perfectly. They didn't change a thing. I'm going straight for the AV output. Wait a minute. Video and audio have the wrong colors. They're swapped around. Video is meant to be yellow and audio is meant to be white. I wonder if they got this wrong in the factory and then just changed the labeling. Video into white, audio into yellow. I don't think this one does, but sometimes these things have got games built in. I'm gonna just try powering it on. At least we got a power light, if nothing else. Let's smash a Famicom game in there and see if it works. No. Okay, good boy is sadder than I thought. That smile's a lie. You need surgery. And plastic surgery. Don't worry, I'll be gentle. Open wide. Got a cartridge flap here. Got a spring here. I guess that's probably from the cartridge flap. Oh, the circuit board is broken down there. I wonder if this is the cause of our problems. That little thing labeled ECB, that tells me that's supposed to be a transistor, like this one here. Except it's just some broken legs sticking up out of the circuit board. Oh, there's another little spring that just came out of there. Maybe, I don't know, that's for something. These buttons are both the same, so they're just meant to have a terrible angle. These switches are all over the place though. Someone has been beating on the good boy real hard. Let's get the motherboard out of here. So firstly, is this broken piece of circuit board a problem? No, it is not. It hasn't broken any traces that go anywhere. Someone has been in here before though. There's a patch up job here on the RF connector. And there's a couple of bad solder joints, but none that I can see on anything that will make any difference. This board here has two functions. First, it takes the 10 volts DC and drops it down to 5 volts DC for the motherboard to run. And second, it takes the audio and video from the motherboard, firstly sending them out the back as AV, and second, converting them to a TV station and sending them out through the RF connector. That was to use it with TVs before AV was a standard. This board is where all the magic happens. There's a clock section over here to make sure everything's synchronized. We've got a CPU and a graphics chip here. These chips are very interesting because they're clones of the original NES chips, and they're even socketed, so I can easily swap these out for some original chips later to see if this thing works any better that way, if we can get it working in the first place. And two RAM ICs here. The rest are just discrete logic to tie everything together. So this console doesn't have any games built in, cartridges only. So this missing transistor here, after tracing out everywhere that it leads to and figuring out what it does exactly, I've decided that it's actually been cut off on purpose, and the original Famicom schematic just looks like this. So that's not our problem. The first thing to do is to check that we've actually got voltage here. We've got 5 volts, that's near enough anyway. Next I need to see if the reset circuit's working. This should go down to 0 volts when I push the reset button. It does, so the reset circuit is working. I wonder if this is actually just a video fault and I'm just not hearing anything because I haven't pushed start yet. Probably not. Probably the thing's just not working. Although I have just decided to swap to a game that has title screen music. Oh! It is running. It just doesn't have video or good sound, but I don't think we can do much about that. All right, oscilloscope time. This is the video output from the graphics chip, or PPU, picture processing unit. Somewhere between the PPU and the AV connector, we're losing our video signal. Now, there are some components between here and there, so I can't just connect a wire to patch the gap. But before I go chasing anything on this board, I'm gonna check the link to the board at the back. And we do have video there. So the problem is on this little back PCB. So, ow, oh, that's hot. So the problem's on this little back PCB that I just burnt myself on. Unless, of course, I've actually got video at this RCA connector and it's just my cables, but no, I don't. So now I'm just tracing through and finding where the video signal stops. Okay, so before I tip this over and short everything out on the power switch, I'm gonna show you a little trick. These things are getting a bit rarer nowadays, but I'm sure you can still buy a million for no money on the internet. This is the jumper off the back of an old IDE CD-ROM drive or hard drive or whatever. I can unplug the power switch, plug this guy on there, and now we got power. No risk of shorts, except for all the other stuff up the other end of the board. Video here, jumps across the video here. Hang on. Oh, is that it? The video is being lost right here. This is the solder point for the RCA connector. Well, I'm gonna fix that up and I'm gonna touch up some of these other solder joints too. This one's obviously cracked. We're gonna plug it in now. It should come on immediately. It's more than we had. Whoa. Whoa, okay. Apparently, earthing my oscilloscope fixes the picture. That is quite strange because this oscilloscope should be isolated from this other than this one wire. I wonder if it's just anything touching it. Nope, it wants my oscilloscope attached. Why? That is bizarre. Okay, I think I know what's going on here. To see if I'm right, I'm going to earth this jumper lead and then clip it onto the video connector. Ah, this is a terrible design. On the back of the board here, there are traces connecting all of the earths from these two RCA connectors together, one being RF and one being video, but then those traces aren't connected to anything else. The outside of these two connectors are not earthed at all, and you need to complete the circuit for the video to work. This audio one is earthed, so on most TVs, that would make it work, except for the RF, that'll never work. But on my setup, I have the audio going to somewhere different to the video, so they're not earthing together through the TV. All I have to do is put a great big solder blob in the middle between these two connections, and my problem is fixed. Good boy. So, controllers. Well, this one's mostly working, but you gotta push the D-pad really hard. Look at this weird shape on top too. What about this one? Wow, it actually does work. You have to push it even harder though. Yeah, all the buttons work. Okay, so hopefully these controllers just need a bit of a cleanup and then we can get on to the good boy's plastic surgery. Yep, that's a blob chip. Ugh, look at the filth. That's nasty. Into the soapy water. My container looks like it might not be big enough. This is just dishwashing detergent and warm water. Oh, my container leaks. That's great. I've put that aside to brew. We've got to get that flavor out. This is called a stress relief. It's supposed to stop the cable from bending sharply at the edge of the controller. I don't know if you can buy these separately, but I just use terrible controllers and steal them off those. These can be quite hard to remove off the cables because they're not supposed to come off. I like to use a very small flat blade screwdriver. They're usually only glued at the top end here. Sometimes they're glued all the way though. You just keep working your way around the cable, sliding it between the cable and the stress relief until you think it will probably let go. And then it probably won't. And you'll probably have to struggle more, and then eventually it will. So I've got a little bit left over on the inside, but that doesn't matter at the moment. I definitely recommend you don't do this with your fingers, but I'm using a drill bit about the same size as the cable I want to use in this stress relief, just to finish cleaning it out. And hopefully that's ready to go, and I'm very impressed by how almost exactly the same it is to the original one. And from there, hopefully it's just a matter of desoldering the cable, taking off the old stress relief, sliding the new one on, and securing it with a little bit of super glue. And look at that. They look like, well, they still look like trash, but they should at least be functional trash. I've got all the directions so far. I've got shoot, I've got bomb. So that controller works. What about the other one? Oh no, I can't bomb. It seems, depending on how I move the cable, this button can do all sorts of different things, including pausing it. Yeah, so moving the cable around connects and disconnects it a lot. There are broken wires in here somewhere. That means cutting it off and starting again. I wish I could actually do this in time lapse, but only you get the time lapse. It's not fair. But now this should work. Shoot, shoot, shoot. Bomb, bomb, bomb. Start. Start. Oh. Oh, okay, I had to wait for the music to finish. I think this controller came up even better than the other one. This is actually fine to play with. Now, before we address the good boy's battle wound, I want to have another look at these chips here. Firstly, I was spot on when I said the RF on the back of this dates this as 90s. Every chip on here that has a date stamp I understand is dated about halfway through 1992. So this is an old Famiclone. And an illegal one, because Nintendo's patent on the Famicom didn't expire until 2003. The ones you get nowadays are legal, so long as they don't have bootleg games on them, which they all do. Now, as I was saying before, these two chips, the CPU and PPU, are clones of their counterparts in the NES and Famicom. More specifically, these two are clones of the PAL versions of these chips. PAL is one of the two big video formats that were used throughout the world, the other being NTSC for Japan, America, and a few other places. But the Famicom is NTSC, so apparently there are some differences in these chips to allow for better NTSC game compatibility, but this is the first time I've ever heard of NTSC Famicom or NES games not working properly in a PAL console, except for running slow because of the refresh rate difference on PAL. However, these clones have a problem with the audio. The CPU has a bug where two of the audio modes were swapped around by accident. So I've borrowed the original Nintendo chips out of my Australian NES. They weren't socketed in that, so it was a bit of a pain. And we're going to compare the clones to the originals, see what we get. First, the clone chips. You can hear the slowness if you're familiar with Super Mario Brothers. Oh. So these are the genuine Nintendo chips that I've got in here. I'm not actually 100% sure that this is even going to work, so here's hoping. Ah, it does. Excellent. Let's see if this sounds any different. Actually, we should see if it looks different too. Here's the clone PPU, and here's the genuine PPU. I think the clone PPU is a little bit more saturated in the colors. Now, what about the sound? Let's see if that's any different. Whoa. It's definitely different. Wow. They pitched up the audio on the other one. That must be the NTSC compatibility they were talking about. I gotta go back to the clone audio and see what that sounds like again. So instead of swapping both the chips back, I'm just swapping the CPU. I just want the audio to change, but I'm interested to see if the CPU is compatible with the original PPU too. It is. Yeah, wow. So the clone CPU actually changed the audio to correct the pitch. It's pretty crackly at times, but I think the fixed pitch is worth dealing with the crackle, even if two of those audio modes are swapped around and it's not quite as accurate. But honestly, because of the speed difference, I can't tell. Whoa! Okay, so I didn't introduce what I'm doing here. This is a genuine NTSC CPU. I don't even really know what's happening here, to be honest. I thought the clock speed of a PAL unit was lower, but maybe it's higher with a different multiplier or something. So putting an NTSC CPU with a PAL PPU and a PAL crystal ends up with way faster audio. And when I say faster, I actually mean each sound is played faster, which pitches it up. That goes so high-pitched. Well, I suppose I've come this far. I need to try an NTSC PPU in this system and just see what happens. I'm pretty sure the screen won't even synchronize. I don't think it's going to work at all. Let's see what happens. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought, because the clock signal is wrong for this PPU. And it's wrong for the CPU too, but that doesn't affect things as badly. It is actually running. It's just that it's way out of spec, so the screen can't do it. Oh, I died. So I expect the PAL CPU with the NTSC PPU and the PAL clock crystal is going to have the same visuals, but it'll play with slower sound. Yeah, lower pitched sound is what I really mean. So including the clones, there are 3 different audio pitches you can choose from based on which CPU you put into your NES or Famicom or whatever. The results will be different in NTSC region consoles, and in fact, if you have an NTSC clone and you swap the chips for genuine NTSC chips, the audio pitch won't change at all. It'll be perfect and the quality will improve. It's only on the PAL clones that there's not really a better option. I just don't think there were any genuine PAL CPUs with the audio pitched up. The only PAL system I can think of which takes NTSC games is the Hong Kong Famicom, and that goes about this a whole different way. Now, if you really want to be a good boy, this crack is not good for you. We gotta get rid of it. Wow, there we go. That's promising. Now, I do realize I'm not going to get rid of this completely, but I'm going to do my best to improve it. I need something to hold this together while I repair it from the other side. I can't just use normal tape because when you heat it, it stretches. And you bet I'm going to be using hot glue on this thing. So I'm going to be using Captain tape. You can heat it up all you want, and it doesn't really make any difference to it at all, except for letting the adhesive go a little bit. But I'm not going to be heating all of the adhesive. With that stretched tight over there holding the gap closed, I can turn it over, cover it in brand new hot glue from my brand new hot glue gun. I like hot glue. And maybe even stick a piece of actual garbage over the top of it. The plastic will go soft when it hits the hot... Ow, 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 ow. Wow, this hot glue's hotter than my other hot glue. This piece of plastic is literally a piece of garbage out of my bin. But I think it works well. And while we're waiting for that to set, we can try and reassemble the cartridge flap. Judging by the other one, this little spring is the one that I need. And this is hard to put in. I am gonna lose this spring. It keeps escaping me. So I did get it back in, but I can see why this popped out. It's because the metal shaft is only just at the ends. It doesn't go across the middle, so it means the cartridge flaps can flex in the middle and then dislocate at the end. Hopefully, because nobody's gonna be beating the absolute heck out of this thing again, it will stay in place though. The broken piece of PCB I had to fix because there are only 2 screws holding that board down, so I glued the corner back on and then glued a random washer over the top of it. The other stray spring turned out to be from the eject button, which feels a lot nicer now. Not that I would ever use it to get the cartridge out because old plastic is old. And my glue's finally cooled down, so look at the good boy now. He's playing games. He finally deserves to be smiling. He's so happy about the way we've treated him, he even invited a friend over. They can be good boys together. And what good boys they are. That's it. The Good Boy by Taiwan. It's a Famiclone, but it's not just a NES on a chip like all the modern ones. They actually put some effort into this guy. He really is a good boy. If you want early ad-free access to all my videos, plus a photo of each video game related thing that I get, because I've been collecting video games for a long time and I'm always getting new stuff, you can join me on Floatplane for $2.50 a month. Or if you only want the photos, you can join me for $1 a month. The link's in the description. I'll see you there. Ow!